In this video, we are going to learn how to name fraction amounts that are larger than a whole. Let's look at this collection of fraction pieces. These are halves. Let's go ahead and count to see how many halves we have. So count out loud with me. We have 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves. And if I want to write down that amount, I know that they are halves, so 2 pieces makes a whole, and I had 5 of those pieces, so that fraction reads 5 halves. Since there are 5 pieces with 5 halves, I could go ahead and take a minute and arrange those in wholes. So I know that 2 pieces make a whole. Here's a second whole, and here is a piece that's left over. There are so many pieces with 5 halves that I actually have the amount of 2 wholes with 1 half left over. This is called a mixed number, and we will get a lot of practice reading and writing mixed numbers in the days to come. Let's go back to our fraction amount of 5 halves. This is what we call an improper fraction because the numerator is 5 and it is bigger than the denominator. So remember that the denominator tells us how many pieces are in the whole, how many equal-sized pieces. And so anytime that the numerator is larger than the denominator, that means that we have an amount that's more than 1 whole. That's what we're going to practice today, is looking at fraction amounts and writing names for those amounts. Here I have my first example, and you can see that in this picture there is more than a whole. In order to write a fraction name for this amount, I need to figure out how many pieces each whole is divided into. And that number is my denominator. So if I count the pieces, I've got 1, 2, 3 pieces in a whole. And it's the same with all of the wholes for this example. So 3 would be my denominator. And then I need to count those thirds. So I'm going to count 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, 4/3. There are 4 of those pieces that are shaded in. So that becomes my numerator. So the fraction that names this amount is 4/3. Let's look at another example. I can see that this is a whole, this is a whole, and this is a whole. In order to figure out my denominator, I need to count the number of pieces in a whole. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means that my wholes are divided into fifths. And I'm ready to count the pieces. Go ahead and count with me. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5, 6/5, 7/5, 8/5, 9/5, 10/5, 11/5, 12/5. So 12 becomes my numerator. The fraction that names this amount is 12/5. And remember that this is called an improper fraction because it is greater than a whole. My numerator is larger than my denominator. So we call that an improper fraction. And moving on to a third example, I can see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 wholes. What do you think the denominator should be? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you got 8, you are correct. Each whole is split into 8 pieces. Now there are a lot of those pieces that are shaded in, so let's count those eighths. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, 8/8, 9/8, 10/8, 11/8, 12/8, 13/8, 14/8, 15/8, 16/8, 17/8, 18/8, 19/8, 20/8, 21/8, 22/8, 23/8, 24/8, 25/8, 26/8, 27/8, 28/8, 29/8, 30/8. Wow. There are 30 of those pieces. 38. Now it's your turn. Go ahead and pause the video and you can work on the first side of the practice page. Just remember to count the number of pieces in each whole. That's your denominator. And then go back and count each of those pieces to get your numerator. Now that we've worked with fraction bars, let's look at fraction circles. And I can easily see the wholes again. This amount is greater than a whole, so this will be an improper fraction. We need to find the denominator first. We can go ahead and count how many pieces the whole has been split into. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These are fourths. And then we'll go ahead and count those fourths to get our numerator. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4, 9/4. So my numerator is a 9, 9/4. So in this example, we have 1, 2, 3 wholes and some other pieces. Let's figure out what our denominator is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are tenths, and we have a lot of the tenths. So go ahead and count out loud with me. 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, 10/10, 11/10, 12/10, 13/10, 14/10, 15/10, 16/10, 17/10, 18/10, 19/10, 20/10, 21/10, 22/10, 23/10, 24/10, 25/10, 26/10, 27/10, 28/10, 29/10, 30/10, 31/10, 32/10, 33/10. There are 33 pieces. Was there a faster way that we could have counted those pieces? Because we know that a whole is 10 tenths, we really could have counted by tens. So we could have said 10 tenths, 20 tenths, 30 tenths, 31 tenths, 32 tenths, 33 tenths. So if you like the skip counting, you can certainly use that on the practice page. Our last example, sometimes you'll see the wholes and there won't be any extra pieces. And so when we see something like this, it's very easy to see that there's 1, 2, 3 wholes. So that could be our answer. Today we're practicing how to write the improper fraction amount. And so we're going to make sure we know the size of the piece and how many pieces there are. So go ahead and take a look at the circles. What do you think the denominator should be? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are sevenths. Now you can count a piece at a time, or you could skip count. If you count a piece at a time, you'd count 1 seventh, 2 sevenths, 3 sevenths, 4 sevenths, 5 sevenths, 6 sevenths, 7 sevenths, and then go on 8 sevenths, 9 sevenths, 10 sevenths, 11 sevenths, 12 sevenths, 13 sevenths, 14 sevenths, 15 sevenths, 16 sevenths, 17 sevenths, 18 sevenths, 19 sevenths, 20 sevenths, 21 sevenths. And if you're thinking of skip counting or using multiplication, 21 is not a surprise because you have 7 sevenths. So if you add 7 more pieces, you have 14 sevenths, and then 7 more of the pieces. 7 times 3 is 21, so you get 21 sevenths. Go ahead and finish up the second page. Be sure to have a parent check over your work, or you can use the answer key to check your own work.